If you are a real estate agent, you need to watch this episode where Tom Cafarella, who is the brand agentinvestor.com, goes deep on why agents are not taking advantage of the real estate market and how they can. Remember, for those business owners out there too, Tom's going to go into his clarity of purpose and how that really transformed his business. I hope you like this episode. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mistake-Free Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Marck, and really excited today to be joined by someone from the coast. Now, it's not California. We're out on the East Coast today talking to Tom Cafarella from the Boston area. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
Tom, give the audience a little bit of an idea of your background. You and I met through the Collective Genius Mastermind. We have very similar businesses. The more we talk and the more we get to know each other, we found that, you have a big fix and flip operation. You have a real estate brokerage. There are a lot of similarities in the experiences we've had over the last 12 months. But give the audience an idea of, how you grew up. I know you're influenced by your grandfather getting into real estate, but give us a little cliff notes on how you got into real estate.
Yeah. So growing up, my parents never fought about anything except for money. And, there were multiple kind of points in my life where my parents almost lost their house, or even just like small, simple things like, hey, Dad, I want to play hockey. No, you can't because we don't have the money. It influenced me. And I knew at a young age that I never wanted to be in a bad financial position. And I had anxiety around that even at 8, 9, 10 years old. But the funny thing is that the only person I knew that didn't seem like they had a job and always seemed to have money was my grandfather. And my grandfather came here from Italy. I think he only finished the 3rd grade, and he never had more than a minimum wage job. Like, he never, ever had a job where he made more than minimum wage. But, he found out that if you bought real estate in the greater Boston area and you rented it out, you can make money. And he started doing that, probably in his 30s, kept doing it. And he never, had huge financial success. But to me, comparing to like my dad and, kind of how we lived. And by the way, I never went without a meal. I never really had any real problem. It was a perception thing. But in my mind, I was like, wow, like he made it. He does very well. And he never had like a really high paying job. He did real estate. Having said that, everybody told me the solution was do good in school, get a good job. So that's what I did. I hated school. I hated just memorizing things, but I forced myself. Did very well throughout my whole, school career. Was pre-med in college. While I was in college, driving around, I was a pizza delivery boy. I put the Rich Dad Poor Dad cassette tape into my 2000 white Kia Sophia, and I'm not exaggerating.
Bible.
I'm not even exaggerating, Mark. By the time that I finished that cassette tape, I went home, told my dad, I'm like, I'm not going to medical school anymore. I want to be a business owner. And it's funny because I think 99% of parents would be like, you're crazy. You're almost into medical school right now. But my parents had so little value on money. They were like, that's great if that's what you're excited about. So kind of a different approach than I think most parents would take. But long story short, I ended up changing my major to business. I became a CPA for a couple years and started selling real estate on the side as a real estate agent. I wanted to be an investor, but I figured, I'll get my real estate license, start selling some homes, did okay selling real estate, was 26 years old. I ended up getting laid off because I was spending so much time learning about real estate and talking about real estate in my day job that they were like, you know what, you should just do real estate. So they laid me off. I remember the drive going home. I felt like a complete failure because, here I am, like my dad was in and out of work all the time. Now I'm out of work. And, the next day, the drive home, I was thinking in my head, I got to go out tomorrow and get a new job. But by the time I woke up the next morning, I was like, wait, 26 years old. I'm living in my parents' basement. If I'm going to do this, I have to do this now. And looking back, it was kind of crazy because I thought I was taking this big risk. And it just kind of goes to show like how much mindset plays into things, because my bills were probably $600 a month. And here I am thinking I'm taking the biggest financial gamble of my life, but that's how I felt. And so I started selling real estate, kind of did okay selling real estate. I actually thought I was going to have more success than I thought. After I went full time, kind of sold about the same amount as when I was part time. Then went on a listing appointment, stumbled across a multifamily in Boston in a very hot area. And the seller, as I was trying to list her house, was walking through the house. She had stuff everywhere. I didn't even know what a hoarder was, but that's what, how you'd kind of classify her. And she said to me, she said, I know you want to list my house, but I'm not having people walk through my property. My property's in a great area. If you can find me a buyer, I'll sell it for $300,000. I thought the house was worth 350. So I'm like, this lady's crazy. And I kept trying to get her to list it. I'm like, you're leaving money on the table. What are you doing? And she just kept saying to me, she said, listen, I'm not telling you anymore. If you can't find me a buyer that's going to look at the outside of my house, wants to renovate it and not come in, then I'll find someone who will. So I left that appointment, called the mentor that I had. I finally got a real estate coach, didn't have one up until that point. Had a real estate coach call them, and they said to me, the words, that kind of changed the trajectory of my career, which is that if you don't, find a way to make money on this deal, I will. And because he knew it was such a good deal, and he showed me how to wholesale the deal. I thought I was going to make $30,000 or $40,000. I ended up making $115,000 because it was such a hot property in just the perfect location.
Yeah.
And from there on out, everything changed because I went from, being an agent first to being an investor first and an agent second. And, fast forward, I don't know, almost 20 years now, I fixed and flipped over 1,000 homes, have a 300-unit rental property portfolio, build apartment units, have a 350-person real estate brokerage, and the agent investor brand that all focuses on helping agents achieve financial freedom through real estate investing.
Dude, that's an awesome story. And I want to unpack a lot of that. And we will definitely get to the agent investor because that's kind of a passion project of mine right now also. So your first deal, you were, when you were talking, I kept on coming down to mindset. And then you actually mentioned it yourself, even back to your parents, our parents went through a very different time. My father always liked to say, never cut something that can be untied, right? There's like an inherent non-wasting mentality that our generation just doesn't have. I mean, we can click a button. If your pair of shoes is wearing out, you don't need to glue them back together. You just go click and another pair of shoes will be on your doorstep tomorrow.
Yeah.
We haven't gone through, a massive, world war or we went through a recession clearly in 2008, but the mindset is clearly different. Talk to me about your grandfather. Is he still with you?
No, he's not. He passed away in 2003.
So you weren't able to have any real conversations about money with him?
No, and that's one thing my dad always talks about because it's funny, like my dad just was never into money. Like he had other values in his life and money just wasn't one of them. But he always says, like, if your grandfather saw what you were doing today, like he would be so proud because it's just like that's what he valued, So it's just kind of an interesting thing. And I do wish that he could see some of the stuff I'm doing because like he influenced me even though he wasn't trying to.
No doubt. No, I see that very clearly how he impacted your life, and it's important. You talked also about mentors and coaches. I think you and I share a mentor in Robert Kiyosaki. He probably, I don't know if he knows this clearly or not, but I think there's a whole generation of real estate investors that read that book and just completely changed their life. I know it may seem clichéic, but I think it's just factual that there is a mindset shift. You cannot read that book as a young entrepreneur and not be motivated to go, and get from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant and, ditch the self-employed. I think that book alone has probably caused more job loss or people walking away from their jobs than any before. Talk to me a little bit about what it was in that book that had you kind of, what was the light bulb moment?
Well, it's funny when you say motivation. I played sports growing up, and sometimes you're in a locker room. Somebody gives this crazy speech, and you're literally ready to just fight, right? And that's the same feeling I got after reading that book. And I think, more than anything else, I didn't realize how people made money. Like it sounds kind of foolish, but I didn't understand simple things like, hey, a business owner has to make money to pay their employees. Like just simple things like that I did not understanding. After reading that book, I also didn't realize that there was something outside of the corporate ladder. Like I thought that pretty much everybody had a job. I know this sounds like just a crazy comment to
Oh,
make, but
I think it's still something people believe today. There's a false pretense out there. So yeah, please go on.
yeah, I mean, I literally thought that the only way you could make money is that you work for a company. And I thought that the degree was what made you the money. Like you get a degree, you start working for a company, and it's just like you get paid, and that's really it. I never thought anything kind of more to that. And I never thought that you could start your own company and basically make your own ladder. And just that simple kind of like mindset shift. And
Mm.
then all of the stuff, Kiyosaki has a lot of books. So when you start thinking about books like Cash Flow Quadrant, and just how really real estate is set up to create millionaires. Um, the rules with which real estate operates, it's like everything is in your favor. It's almost like when you go to the casino and you play enough, you're probably going to lose. It's the opposite in real estate. When you, and you can probably attest to this, if you think about all the people that that have been in real estate for a while, regardless of whether they had ups or downs along the way, at the end, they always seem like they have the chips on their side. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's really like the Vegas analogy that I just gave is kind of how it really works. Like you can start investing, you can have some maybe bad luck, and maybe the house is down, in the first 5 or 6 or 10 hands, but as the night goes on,
Investor
all
always wins in the end, right?
they,
I guess the house wins, but in real estate, the investor always wins in the end.
they always win because asset prices go up and rents go up and depreciation, and you get smarter and you get better at different tactics and strategies and whatnot. And I always say this to people, and I say it so often, but I think people don't understand it, which is just like success in real estate. You can become a millionaire in real estate just by being in it and doing stuff. You don't need to be like, I think I'm okay, I'm fairly smart, I'm a hardworking guy, but you can be, just average working, just average intelligence. If you're around real estate doing transactions, you won't be a billionaire, but you'll probably be a multimillionaire within 10 to 15 years.
Tommy, I've always stated, and I hold this to be true, maybe you can check me, but I've never met a 70-year-old man or lady with white hair that says, with all the experience that says, man, I wish I didn't own those 200 doors that I currently own.
Yep, never, never. But you know what the weird thing is, going to the mindset thing, is like when you hear people say why they don't do it, they'll almost like come up with these stories about people who lost everything or faced all these like, struggles. And I'm not saying this stuff is easy per se, but I also say that like, people have this kind of story out there. And I had it too. When I took that, risk, I needed $600 a month to live in my parents' basement. I thought it was a big risk. I was worried about losing everything. Mark, I had $5,000 in my checking account.
Mm.
I had nothing to lose, but I'm scared of losing the nothing that I had.
Yeah. Mindset. So I want to pivot because one of my passion projects right now is called the KC Realtor Roundtable. And what I'm trying to bring to the fold is that I believe that agents are walking over dollars to pick up pennies. And I'm very respectful of the industry. I am an agent. I've been an agent. I've been a broker for, I don't know, a long time, 15, 16 years. And so I respect the industry and I respect what they do, but I don't know what the word is. I'm disappointed for. I am a little bit upset. I'm wishing that more agents would pick up the mantle because I've seen how buying and holding, again, real estate is not complicated. If you buy and hold for the long term, everything works out in the long run. And so it's that whole anti-Vegas mentality, right? That the investor always wins in the end. I just wish that more realtors that have the keys to the castle, they literally can see every deal. They have the, this backstage pass to the deal flow through the MLS and through talking with people that are considering buying or selling or moving and shaking inside real estate. and they're not taking that chance. Tell me about agent investor and what it is, because I think we share that same frustration.
Yeah. So when I first kind of started investing, obviously I had that story where I made $115,000 as an agent that just happened to stumble across an opportunity. And as I kind of went on, I saw not only did I, as an agent, keep stumbling across those type of opportunities, but other agents were. So, it led me to start really asking questions. Why aren't more agents investing? Why are they just, listing and working with buyers and stuff like that? And I started, I was at a brokerage, a big name brokerage that everybody would know, and they really discouraged me from investing. And it's still to this day hard for me to believe, but I was a top producing agent there. And every time I would talk about, doing wholesale deals or flipping or whatever, they literally would tell me, like, please, can you stop talking about this stuff? So I ended up leaving that brokerage, and I told them that they were shocked that I left. And I said, are you kidding me? You've had 5 conversations with me about not promoting investing. That's what I do. I think it's the right thing. I'm not going to just be quiet because it doesn't fit whatever agenda you have. So I started my own brokerage, and I realized there was a lot of other agents that were in the same position. They were investing and their brokerage was discouraging them, or at least not encouraging them, and definitely not teaching them. So I just in my path, I started, picking up a few agents here and there as a broker, agents that wanted either were investing in real estate or wanted to invest in real estate. And, over the course of a 6-year period, grew out a 350 person real estate brokerage. Um, that was what I did first. And then I said, geez, like, I like doing this. Like, I'm very passionate about helping people invest, specifically agents. And then I said, there's a lot of people that won't join my brokerage no matter what I do for whatever reason. Maybe they're a broker, maybe they're in a state where I'm not licensed, maybe they're just very tied into where they are for whatever reason. So I decided to create the Agent Investor brand to teach real estate agents how to invest in real estate and give them all the tools that they need basically for free. So I have a Facebook group with over 11,000 agents in it. People can go to it at www.agentinvestor.com. I do a live training in there every single week. And then I have a podcast that people can go to, the Agent Investor podcast, that again releases 1 episode a week on my podcast. I interview agents that have invested in real estate. I specifically try to focus on that mindset shift, because that's the thing that I keep coming up with as to the reason why most agents don't invest. They just don't think they can. And I can give you a bunch of different reasons why they think that, but it's really all a mindset thing. And, we've had times where we've partnered with agents that are at our brokerage. I told you the story about before we jumped on. We partnered on a fix and flip that one of our agents found their friend's mom passed away. Same situation, didn't want to have the house on the open market. We bought it, renovated it, and split the profit with them. And it was a $300,000 profit that neither of us expected it to be that big. But the agents that we work with made $150,000 without having to come up with money, without having to renovate the property. So it's like that mindset that can even happen.
Yeah.
That's
equivalent of like 10 or 15 deals for them out there in that market, right?
Not only that, but it's also that it's just like, I don't want to say free money, that's not the right word, but to just get $150,000 check handed to you is a lot different than doing 10 or 15 deals, because that takes a lot of your time, a lot of your effort, a lot of your energy. Like, what can you do with that $150,000? Like, you could buy a couple of multifamily properties, you can buy rental properties, and now increase that, net worth and that cash flow and everything.
What holdings do you currently have? You said you had about 300 doors. Give the audience an idea of your progression. I know you wholesaled a bunch. What was your first buy and hold investment, and do you still own it? And then also, give us an idea of multifamily versus your single family breakdown.
Yeah. So I guess, like, when I read that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's funny. I never thought about flipping homes. Like, I was never interested in flipping homes at all. And flipping homes became this thing where it was just a higher dollar per hour than being a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at flipping, like a lot of people talk about flipping as investing. I don't necessarily look at flipping as investing. I look at it more that it's active income that you're working hard for, and
Yeah.
it can be like a high dollar per hour. But I do look at fixing and flipping as ways that you can get down payments for multifamily properties. So when we always have the objective, I have two partners to build a multifamily portfolio. That's what we really wanted to do. And what we ended up doing was we took one of our flips, a multifamily in the greater Boston area, we renovated it, and they said, geez, what would happen if we just kept this? So we kept it. A year later, we refied it out, pulled more money out, and we just kept kind of repeating that process where, yes, we're out there hunting for flips, but there's these good rental opportunities that are going to come across. We can buy them at a discount, renovate them, get them rented out, and then refinance them later, get our money back, and continue that process. So we went through a period of maybe 5 years where, we were adding, I don't know, 30, 40, 50, 60 units a year to our portfolio. And we got to a point where we had a pretty sizable portfolio. Is working okay. But the only thing about the Kiyosaki book that I have to kind of critique, and I think is a little bit, I don't think he purposely was misleading about it, but it's just what the reality is that in the book, they talk about buying assets, hiring a property manager, and kind of closing your eyes and having, air quotations, passive income.
Yeah.
Passive income kind of meaning that you can do nothing. You can just sit on a beach, not have any problems, and collect money. And what we found is that it just wasn't passive. It was a nice business. We were making good money, but it wasn't passive at all, especially in the markets in Boston that we had to buy into cash flow. So what we ended up doing a few years ago was we decided that we were going to kind of trade our greenhouses and turn them into red hotels. So we started selling some of our smaller multifamilies, 2 to 10 unit buildings, and started building or highly renovating apartment complexes of 50 to 100 units. And that's our business model now for the buy and hold side. And, it's all a progression. And I think like a lot of people who, start investing or that I coach or that are in my program or whatever, I always tell people like investing is just kind of a way to make your life better. Like you're at where you're at today. Investing is a way to improve your life, and it's all incremental. And when sometimes when my partner cries about like, hey, we should be further along than we are, or hey, we had a bad quarter or something, I look at things in terms of like a 2 to 3 year window, and I go, what was your life like? What is your life like today? What was it like 3 years ago? What was it like 3 years before that? And investing, you're always kind of like building and building and building. And it's easy to kind of get caught up in like, I could be better, but to say like, where were you 3 years ago? What was your life like? What was the freedom that you had? And
Yeah.
that's to me, what investing is. And us kind of going into the apartments was just a way to be even more passive, to make our life even better. And that's what we're focused on right now.
So the market in Boston, we're recording this late March 2023.
Yeah.
The last 6 months have been crazy in Kansas City. Talk to me a little bit about what's going on out there on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's been really, I like to think of myself as someone who really follows economics. I think I'm smart. I think I know what's going to happen. And life just keeps kind of slapping me in the face to kind of remind me, hey, check your ego at the door because you don't know as much as you actually think. So, obviously this time last year, 12 months ago, interest rates were 3 to 4%. Market was absolutely on fire. There was no inventory. It just looked like things were going to keep going great forever. And I never thought things were going to be perfect, but I also did not see mortgage rates going from 3 to 7%. When mortgage rates went from 3 to 7% from, call it, this time last year until
March
September.
in 6 months.
In 6 months, it froze the market. It really froze the market a lot. And we took some hits on some of the deals that we had put in the pipeline that we thought were good deals. Things were really slow. The last quarter of 2022, there was a ton of uncertainty in our market to what was going to happen. A lot of different predictions that were all over the map. And I always thought that because of the supply and demand in Boston, we have a little bit of a unique market specifically because, as everyone probably knows, like Boston was founded, in the 1600s. So for the audience that doesn't know Boston that well, if you drive around anywhere 30 miles around Boston, there's no land. Like everything's built. It's been built. It's been built for 100 years. So we have this dynamic that I'm sure some other places in the country have, but there's no ability to just add units here. So I always felt like there is a lot of demand for buyers in this market specifically, and there's just not a way to create supply. So I always felt like if we dipped this cycle, it wouldn't be by that much. And in the middle of January, that was one thing that I was right about. I wasn't right about everything last year, but I was right about that, which is that when rates kind of went back down to 6.25, 6.5, everyone just kind of realized, you know what? This is probably how it's going to be for a little bit. I do want to buy a house. And the biggest dynamic going on in the whole real estate market nationally right now, that the residential market, is that the sellers who want to sell that have a 3% mortgage rate pretty much can't.
Yep.
That is the biggest dynamic right now in all of real estate, residential real estate. So there is I don't know the percentage, but there's a certain percentage of people right now that want to downgrade, upgrade, trade in some way that cannot financially because they have a 3% rate and they're going to go to a 6.5% rate. So all across the country, that's created this supply problem, a supply problem that's worse than this time last year that I don't know how it improves. And so for that standpoint, since the beginning of January, our market has been on fire. And I know I mentioned to you before I came on, I've been literally just wasting my time fighting with people on Twitter about how the Boston market is going to show that it went up in April, May, and June and not down, because I see all of these people in my market posting about how the Boston market is crashing because they're finding charts from Redfin saying year over year we're down like 1%. But what I'm saying to them, and it's reality in my market, is that I've got 30 to 40 pendings where the properties are selling for 5% more than they were last year. And that's the part that the data will come to fruition, in the next month to 3 months, but that people don't see right now.
Lagging data from the winter, right?
It's all stuff that price cuts that were taken in November, that's showing up in the sales today.
So we've just got a little bit more time. I want to kind of get back into you more on a personal business owner side of things. This podcast is called the Mistake Free Real Estate Podcast, very much tongue in cheek, knowing that there are so many mistakes that we've all made. But as a turnkey provider, we've kind of made all the mistakes so that our investors don't have to. Similar to the way, with your agent investor, I'm sure that you are coaching and educating your agent investors to try and avoid all the mistakes that can be made. Talk me through, your biggest mistake that you feel you made early on.
Well, this is an easy one, and this is one a lot of entrepreneurs make. And if they could avoid making it, it would, increase their net worth by millions of dollars over the course of their life, which is that when you are an entrepreneur, especially if you've had success in your life, I don't care if it's business success, but if you're a successful person that usually comes out, with a good result, in the beginning of your career, you think you can do a million different things. And you've probably been rewarded at some point in your life, like, hey, if you studied for a test, you did well. Hey, if you tried in this sport, you did well. Hey, if you tried to do this, you did well. So you've gotten throughout your whole life this positive reinforcement that, like, I don't want to say everything I touch turns to gold, but like everything I try to do seems like it works out okay. And because of that, a lot of entrepreneurs, and again, my biggest mistake was thinking I could run 10 businesses at the same time and that was smart. And so it goes back to not having a vision of what I wanted real estate investing to do for me, or any business to do for you, right? You are not running a business, you're not investing in real estate just because you want to own properties. Like, you're actually doing it for a reason. You want your life to change for some specific reason. You want your life to look like XYZ in the future. And I never put down on paper until the last few years what I wanted that XYZ to look like. what I wanted my life to look like, what I wanted my day-to-day to look like. And because of that, I couldn't put together my perfect plan of action. Well, actually, take that back. What I thought was my best course of action. So instead of actually having a very clearly defined path, it was just like any opportunity I saw, I tried to do it. And instead of focusing on one thing and being the best at it, people look at what I've done and they say, wow, you've done a lot of really good things really well, but I really haven't. In the beginning stage of my career, I did a lot of things average, and I worked through a lot of things and realized now that had I been a little bit more diligent and been a little bit more focused, I would have went further. And you were at the Collective Genius, I'm sure, where the Priceline.com founder
Jeff
spoke,
Hoffman.
yeah, and Jeff talked about the fact I think he said, how many days a week do you think Michael Phelps, the Olympic, gold swimmer, how many days a week do you think he spends playing basketball, baseball, football, and hockey? And we were all like, of course, none. And he's like, yeah, but a lot of you guys are trying to do that. You're trying to play 4 different sports. So, and then he talked about his success and how he had one singular focus.
Finding a gold medal talent, right? And
Gold medal talent. What can you win a gold medal in? And that was actually, believe it or not, part of what helped me push through Agent Investor, because I knew that I could win a gold medal in that. That was something I had done really well and that I'm uniquely qualified to do and nobody else is doing. So I was like, geez, like this is, I don't want to say my calling, but this is what I can win a gold medal in.
Yeah.
And until you kind of figure that out, your success is going to be kind of, it can only go so high. There's going to be a cap on what that success can be.
It's very deep. I love the way that you have clarity of vision now, and I know that's leading to your success. The last 6 months, Tom, you mentioned pivoting in a down market. Supply is currently an issue. Everyone who's listening is always wanting to, kind of give a prediction on the market and look in that crystal ball. So
yeah,
obviously I have my thoughts on where we're headed, but what do you see coming down the pipeline in 2023 and beyond?
Okay, so keep in mind that these are my predictions based on information I have within like the last 30 days, because we keep getting all of this new information about how things are changing. But this is how I feel about it. We have high inflation right now, and the Federal Reserve has said that they're going to fight it. They keep saying they're going to fight it, they're going to fight it, they're going to fight it. And in the past couple of weeks, we have some of these bank failures and bank problems. And in the past 2 to 3 years minimum, almost every business in America has operating on 0% or very close to 0% interest rates. So there are a lot of potential, they call them systemic problems in the economy right now, where these higher interest rates are causing a lot of pain. And we've seen it with the bank failures in the past couple of weeks. We're probably going to see a lot more of things like that. I don't know if it's a bank failure, but there's going to be problems, right? And so history has shown that the Federal Reserve always yields to those problems. And while inflation is really bad, and while they're saying they're saying their number one priority is inflation, I don't think it will end up being that. So if it ends up being that we need to bail out and create more inflation and lower interest rates, which is where I think things are heading in the next 6 months, I wouldn't be surprised if mortgage rates were in the low 5s by the end of this year. And if that happens, I think for most of us that are in real estate, we're going to see inflation higher, unfortunately, which means probably real estate prices are going to be higher. So I don't know if, and we're going to see job losses higher. So I think that real estate is probably, real estate and a lot of other assets are going to go higher because inflation is going to continue. And that's going to benefit people that own assets. So I know Kiyosaki, getting back to him, his saying is always cash is trash. And I think that that's just going to even get worse over the next 2 or 3 years, because if the Federal Reserve has to pick between having 20% unemployment or inflation at 12%, I think they're going to pick the 12% inflation. And I think in general, we're also starting to see a lot of people in general, start talking about like, do we really need to be this aggressive? I mean, inflation's bad, but do we need to be this aggressive? And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be politically challenging to to really fight inflation, and therefore, I think we're going to see inflation. And in general, high level, like you need to get under as many assets as you can. Doesn't have to be 100% real estate, although I think that's the best vehicle. But gold, silver, stocks, bond, like whatever it is that's an asset, I think those are going to end up being the financial winners in the next 10 years.
Thank you for that. The last question I always have for everybody on the show, Tom, is about spending time with quality people. So I'm going to ask you for 3 people that you would love to spend time with. The analogy I give is that, as you know, I'm a golfer. I enjoy spending time on the golf course for many reasons. One of them is enjoying the outdoors with those that you enjoy spending time with. And 4 hours on a golf course with some friends or family members is time well spent, in my opinion. If you had 4 hours to spend, whether on a golf course and just cruising around an afternoon day, I'm going to expand your mind to potentially, those that are either alive or have passed, historical figures or those currently in your life. Who would you enjoy spending time with to make up your foursome?
Oh man. So this is a tough one. So are we going like business or are we going personal? Or is it just
you want 2 foursomes? You give me those names, man. I'll you tell me who you would go from a business perspective first, and then we'll go back to on the personal side.
Okay, yeah, business perspective, and we're going with 4. I would definitely go with Kiyosaki because I would just love to talk to him.
Yep.
Probably Warren Buffett. There's a guy I follow a lot that I love called Peter Schiff. He's another one. Man, the 4th one, I'm gonna have to go with you.
You're the 4th, so you've given me the 3. You're good.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna go with them, and I don't think 4 hours would be enough for me. Yeah. They'd probably have to kind of peel me off of them.
I love that. No, that's great. On the personal side, I'm sure you would love some more time with your grandfather, right?
Yeah. I mean, personal side, of course, like I've spent a lot of time with the people that are still in my life, and I'd probably go with like both sets of grandparents. I never actually met my grandmother on my dad's side, and his dad, of course, and then my grandfather, my other side, it just passed away. So I probably have to go with those 4 people because I don't feel like I got robbed, but I wish that they had been able, especially with my kids too, being able to see a little bit of that more. So I've got four kids now, and I'm sure that they would want to see them as well.
The older we get, the more we know life is pretty fleeting, right? So we got to share in those days. One of my employees just lost her grandmother today. So yeah, tough times, but we have to cherish the times while we have it.
Yeah.
Tom, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for spreading the word. Hopefully realtors will be watching this podcast, and they can go to agentinvestor.com to get some more information. And remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these episodes where we go deep with some of my friends in the real estate community. Tom, thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.